What is up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops Crew for a brand new Thursday night episode of the Paul James Show. It is our preview episode for Geelong and Brisbane round 3. Very excited to be talking about this game. Very excited to be joining you tonight to talk all about round 3, the goings on. Of course, we have a live game as we speak between the Bombers and the Port Adelaide Power that we'll keep a close eye on as well. Big night ahead with a fairly lengthy agenda, so we'll get into it fairly quickly. Great to see those in the chat starting to pop off nice and early. Please, of course, if you are watching this live, utilize the chat functionality there. G'day, Mark. Hopefully you're having a good night tonight, and hopefully this show it goes well and that you enjoy it. Utilize that chat functionality if you're tuning in live. And of course, if you are dialing into the show after the fact, please do not hesitate to share your thoughts in the comment section as well. Tonight, we're going to go through team selection. We know we know one big in and one player who surprisingly retained their position in the team after a bit of a scare last week. We'll see how that one plays out. We'll discuss that in detail. We will, of course, preview the big matchup against between Geelong and Brisbane, the prelim final replay that we've also then had delayed to get to this point. We're going to touch on all the other games that are being played this week, including the game between the Bombers and the Power that is on right now. We've got a player spotlight. We'll focus on one key player who I think is going to have a big hand in the game against the Lions this week. We'll touch on some news, and of course, we'll get into some Q&A. Firstly, though, let us look at some of the key details for this week's matchup. Again, as I said, the teams are available, and I hope this transition works perfectly for me. Let's see how it goes. Boom! We've got Geelong and Brisbane here, and the team lineups have been revealed. There are some big ins on both sides of the ledger, but of course, the Geelong one is what we care most about. So let's talk a little bit about that. Bailey Smith is in. Bailey Smith is in. Mark O'Connor is out. And of course, that is a big conversation point because Mark O'Connor has gone head-to-head with the likes of Lachie Neale over the journey and come out on top. But interestingly, of course, there's a big player who's retained his spot, Tom Stewart, who couldn't play out the game the other day and really struggled when he tried to get back on the ground, was diagnosed with a PCL injury. Geelong was talking about being really conservative and taking it quite easy. Well, he's held on to his spot. So I'm really interested to see whether that ends up being the case or whether we see a Mark O'Connor, Mitch Duncan, Ollie Wiltshire getting an opportunity to sneak into the team. I'm also really interested to note that Reece Stanley he's fallen off the emergencies list. We're going head-to-head with Oscar McInerney. We'll talk more about Oscar McInerney later. And I'm surprised that we're not trying to... I don't know. It's a really interesting one. I'm fascinated to see what what happens with Tom Stewart, because I think what happens there plays a big part in the lineup from that point. If he's out, I wonder if Sam De Koning goes back or Mark Blitzarves goes back, at which point we start talking about Reece Stanley coming from 15 deep to make a return. I'm really, really interested in this one. We'll see how it all plays out. Lots of love to Ben, who I've been messaging a lot in the last few days while he had some health concerns he was working through. He's described himself as being like Tom Stewart, and you just can't keep him down. But make sure if you're watching live, send lots of love to Ben in the chat there as well. It's been a tricky time for him, but we're glad that he's up and about and doing well. On the Brisbane side, we're, of course, looking at two fairly big inclusions. One in particular, Charlie Cameron returns for his first game for the year, and I'm sure they'll be firing up Country Road and starting their engines and all that sort of stuff. We don't have a Jed Buse to go head-to-head with him, so it'll be a really interesting matchup there. God help us, I think, if he's matched up with a small developing Irishman in Oisin Mullen, who's been getting his pants pulled down by a few small forwards lately. We'll see how that one plays out, though. We'll talk more about that in a little while. Like I said, the bench there, we've got Lawson Humphries, Mitch Nevitt, Jai Clark, Jack Bowes, and Ted Closey. One of those will, of course, need to be the sub, and I'm seriously hoping that it is not Ted Closey after his performance the other day. I look at that lineup on the bench, and I think about form, and I think about who can offer what in the match. And my first thought is Jack Bowes as the potential sub. But then I think about his ability to shut down an opponent. Like, he is a good lockdown player and, really a cannibal defensive unit if he needs to be. And I wonder if maybe with Mark O'Connor coming out and Jack Bowes kind of struggling to get his hands on the ball, I wonder if he's the right sort of matchup to just follow Lachie Neale around and just shut him down, be on his tail every time, tackle hard, but also work his way into the game a little bit, get a bit of a touch for it. We know he can hit the scoreboard as well. I wonder if he is a really strategic matchup there. And in fact, maybe it's a Jai Clark or a Ted Closey or a Mitch Nevitt again who wears the vest. It'd be a really fascinating one. We'll see how that plays out, though. I'm curious as to whether Tom Stewart is laid out. Of course, they're saying he's fine. He's on the plane. There's lots of really positive sentiments there coming out of Chris Scott and the club. But I can't help but wonder if he'll be laid out in this case. And again, I wonder then what that does to a Mark Blitzarves or a Sam de Koning, and then potentially a Reece Stanley coming from 15 back to get in late in the piece. Danders, who I don't think I've seen pop up for the live show so far this year. Awesome to have you. Who do Geelong kick directly to if Starcevic isn't playing? We're not going to do that. We're going to be lacing out some of our defenders and midfield unit, and we're going to, it's too soon. I saw something online before. It was a highlights. It was Channel 7, I think, that had posted like a breakout of a whole bunch of clips from the prelim, some of which were very good, especially Ollie Henry late in the piece there as he got us in front, only to then see some disappointment follow that. Starcevic being a big part of what happened last year, but he's out, so that helps. Good morning from Italy. Happy to see that Baz and Tom are fit. That's awesome. We've got some Italian representation and Ben doing his best there in the comment section too. Loving some Italian representation today. Great to have you on board. Continuing on with, I guess, the game itself. Milestones, we don't have any of those, but stay tuned, I guess, in the coming weeks. Notable absentees, I think Ben's getting a little bit carried away with some of these, but of course, I've touched on Reece Stanley already. Sean Manor, who's continuing to work his way into it, but seems to have just taken a half step back in his progression. George Stevens, who is racking the ball up, I think needs to do it for a little bit longer before he gets a gig. And Jay Polkinghorne, who I guess is the big name recruit of our draftees last year, will be continuing to kick the door down, but it's going to take some time, and I don't think is quite ready yet, and certainly not for a prelim final replay. On the injuries and suspensions list, we're looking at a few players who have got some time ahead of them before they can make their debut. Jack Martin, who the club said they were going to spend about a month on working him up before he plays. He's listed as a test for his calf, and I don't think they're going to be rushing him back. Jake Kolajasny with a groin, 1 to 2 weeks. Jed Buse with his his tendon issue through his finger. I think it was his pinky, if I recall, 6 to 10 weeks. And then we've got a bunch of TBCs here. Cam Guthrie with his Achilles, Tanner Bruin with his finger, Toby Conway with his back, Mitch Edwards with his pelvis, and then some of our young recruits. And we obviously mentioned Jay Polkinghorne trying to kick the door down. Jacob Mollier is out with a hamstring, 1 to 3 weeks. I said this last week. I find that a bit of a worry when you've got a brand new recruit, fresh, cherry ripe, a ruckman too, so they're not necessarily known for their mega endurance work and kind of injuries through the hamstring, but he's out for 1 to 3. Xavier Visick with 2 to 4 weeks still for his ankle. Kyton Matafai-Forbes, 2 to 3 weeks, who's still being listed as being managed there. Lennox Hoffman with a back, indefinite, and Killian Burke with his knee being indefinite as well. I think this is a really fascinating matchup, and we will, of course, in time talk about my predictions for this match, but it's a really fascinating situation that we're in. I think we match up quite well. The Sam Day inclusion for the Brisbane lineup since last season, I think, is a very savvy one, since they weren't able to pick up a really high-profile, big-name key forward through trade period with, obviously, Danaher retiring. It's a really fascinating one. This is a strong Brisbane lineup, and whilst I think they're still taking a little while to build into the season, they're going to be dangerous, and it'll be really interesting matchup in this particular case. We'll see how we go. Let's dive into the match preview side of things, where we are playing at the Gabba, 7:35 on Saturday. Apparently, they are predicting 60 mils of rain, so we're basically getting cyclone-style behaviour, just without the cyclone in this case. good luck to anyone who wants to go to attend that game. You're going to get a shower while you're at it. Of course, we did play Brisbane in similar conditions early in the season last year, and we got the Chockies there, I think, to the tune of about 20-something points. It was a pretty good win in a low-scoring match, so hopefully we can deliver in a similar sort of capacity this year as well. For me, the main sticking point around this one is that we have two incredibly high-profile matches occurring at the exact same time on Thursday night. The Hawthorn and GWS game runs at 7:35 on Saturday night as well. And it blows my mind that when the AFL had the opportunity to reschedule this match because of the troubles with the cyclone and that affecting the opening round version of this event, I'm stunned, genuinely stunned that they decided to put it Saturday night alongside that match. Now, there would have probably been a clash no matter what they did, but this one blows my mind that they chose that time slot for this game. They could have, maybe it wasn't going to be the marquee time slot, but fine. Like, both games are kind of taking away from each other. I think this is really foolish scheduling from the AFL. They could have done better. They should have done better, but here we are. Of course, all of us watching tonight will be checking out the Cats and the Lions, but there's also going to be a fair contingent checking out the Hawks and the Giants as well, because I firmly believe that those four teams, as things stand, are your top four right now. And they all going head-to-head at the same time. It boggles the mind. Recent form, the Cats are 1-1. Obviously, it's all pretty fresh at this particular point. The Lions 2-0, but I would say are not overly convincing 2-0. They had to fight from a long way back to beat the Eagles, and they weren't brilliant in their matchup against the Swans the week before either. They are 8 from 9 at the Gabba, though, so we know which way Ben would have tipped with the tipping point this week. It's a good thing I took over hosting responsibilities for that one, and I brought a bit of common sense to the scenario. More on my tip shortly. History. We don't like talking about the history here between the two teams. The last time we played Brisbane was in the prelim final where we went down by 10 points. We did beat them, as I mentioned before, to the tune of 26 points when we played them at the Gabba in round 6 last year in equivalent-styled heavy rain. Hopefully that works in our favour once again. And hopefully if we play them again in September, we don't lose by a similar sort of margin. In fact, hopefully we don't lose. Full stop. But the last 6 games, we've won 3 games apiece. So it's going to be really hard to split the teams. I've seen the betting odds on this one. I've looked at footy tips, of course, as well for the sake of putting my own tips in for the round. And I'm stunned that it is so heavily favouring the Lions in this particular matchup. I know they're at home. I know they're the reigning premier. But I don't think they've started the season overly well despite the 2-0 start. And I think we're in this game up to our eyeballs. In terms of other history, Ben's kind of wanted to hone in on one here, the prelim final matchups that we've had in just the last 20 years alone. 2004 prelim was a loss. 2020, and 2022, the Cats got up in both of those. And of course, the 2024 prelim, that's freshly etched in our minds. It's been a challenge, and we've dealt with the Lions quite a lot over the course of the last couple of decades at really key points in the season. And I don't think it's going to be an easy matchup this Saturday night either. There are some stakes, though, attached to this one. For the Cats, we want to make sure that we continue to keep that ledger positive. I've spoken about this quite a few times on the Paul James show up to this point, that it is a fairly difficult start to the season for us. I thought I penciled in the Saints for the W there, and that blew up in my face. But I look at the lineup of teams that we've got to play over the next few weeks. I think about Adelaide over in Adelaide. There's quite a few difficult games that we've got to play in the next few weeks. And of course, the Hawks on Easter Monday. And I really, I think we're all of the same mind here that we need to get our wins wherever we can, especially in this early stage of the season. If we can do so, we really set up a strong back end where we start playing some weaker teams. We start playing some of those weaker teams for a second time. Lots of things that work out favorably for us in the mid to latter half of the draw. But we want to start strongly. We don't want to be chasing our tails all season just to try and retain a finals gig, let alone a top 4 spot. So hopefully we can get the points in this one, go back home, recover, back up again the following week. We'll see how that one plays out, though. Of course, the Lions have the opportunity to go 3-0 as well, and that's a huge huge advantage for a team who's potentially got a premiership hangover, or has certainly had a lesser preseason than most other teams in the comp. If they can start 3-0, that's a huge advantage they're going to have as they continue to build into the season. Let's make sure we deprive them of that. For me, there's a single game breaker that I think we try and talk about game breakers. We try and talk about some players who are going to be really important. And on both sides of the ledger, there are some really important players here who will have a massive amount to do with the final outcome. But for me, there is no one more important in this particular matchup than this bloke, Bailey Smith. He's returning from a calf. I don't see there being any dramas with him getting out on the field. I don't think he's going to be at risk of being a late out. I think the club was just being overly precautious last week. But that Brisbane midfield is all class. We've got a younger, more developing midfield unit, but Bailey Smith coming in is cream of the crop sort of stuff, and he's the cherry on top. And I think we're really going to need him to put in another blinder similar to his output against Fremantle in order to get the win in this particular case. I think he's probably our most important player on the weekend, as well as some of those defenders, which links to the keys for victory to me. I think there's two things we need to achieve in this matchup. We need to, at the very least, and I spoke about this last week when it came to the Saints and Rowan Marshall, we need to break even with big Oscar McInerney in this contest. Big O. We need to be able to at least neutralise his impact somewhat. He's got an advantage. He's the big ruckman. He's very, very skilled in that department. We need to be able to shut him down, at least break even. And I think if that's the case, we're going to go a long way towards winning this game. I also want to see us exploit a weaker Brisbane forward line. Joe Danaher is irreplaceable, really. Sam Day is a huge, handy addition. He had a pretty good game for us. For the Suns last year against us, but is well and truly past his peak. Eric Hipwood is one of the most overrated players in the competition, for my mind, and struggles to deliver when it really counts. But that is still a very potent forward line around them. You look at Cam Rayner, you look at Charlie Cameron, you look at Hugh McCluggage, and even a Logan Morris who's continuing to develop his game. It is a dangerous forward line unit. And there's obviously some others on the bench there that can come in and have an impact as well. If we can take advantage of those weaker key position forwards, Jack Henry to continue to deliver the way he's been delivering so far, for O'Sullivan to continue to step up, Blitzart and De Koning when they go back to do what they've been doing really well. If that backline unit can shut down the Brisbane forwards, we're going to go a long way towards winning this game, because I think when you flip the script and look at our Geelong forward line, we have an edge over the Brisbane defence. For as fantastic as they are in some senses, they are, I don't think, up to handling the complement of players that we've got in our forward line, let alone, Jeremy Cameron is obviously going to be a massive handful. Shannon Neal, I think really kind of impressed in that prelim last year. And then I think the Smalls have got the likes of Zorko, Answorth and Wilmot pretty well covered. At the moment, you ask about the sub. I speculated on that one before. I'm still thinking it's going to be... So a few people have suggested that potentially it will be Jack Bowes. He's been a little bit out of form. I think he's going to be running with Lachie Neale on the day. So my suspicion is that we are still talking. As much as I don't think Ted Closey is the right decision, especially after the way he played, I could still see a Mitch Nevitt, Jai Clark, or Ted Closey fitting that bill, whether we like it or not. But that's just my thinking at the moment. Oh, Jackie kind of shouts out there, certain Bailey Smith has a nice history against the Lions too. He absolutely does. So we'll see what comes of that. My final prediction for this match is the Cats win by 15 points. It's not going to be some sort of drubbing. I think it's going to be close regardless of which way the result goes, simply due to the weather. It's going to make it a lower scoring slog. And I think we get an advantage from Brisbane having to play in some really extreme conditions last week. The AFL has been rightly criticised for the scheduling decision there. They're going to be a bit depleted, probably similarly to the way Geelong was probably a bit depleted off the back of the Fremantle game. They're going to be really flat. And when you then have to suddenly go through torrential rain, mud, and those heavy conditions, it's going to make it a lot harder for Brisbane. And I think that also helps give us a bit of an edge. We get the job done by 15 points. On the other side, if you're looking for a little bit of VFL action, if you're a Geelong local and you're obviously not going to make your trip, and if not obviously, but if you're not going to make the trip up to Brisbane to check out that match, we do have the Geelong playing the easy beats of the VFL, the Northern Bull Ants, at GMHBA Stadium at 12:35 on Saturday. So it's a nice warm-up for the prelim final. Go down to Geelong, check out that matchup, and hopefully watch us win by 80 points. The Northern Bull Ants are completely shot as a football club in the VFL these days, and I don't see an upset coming in that space. I know that's going to come back to bite me now. I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't. All right, let's move on. We've got an overlay to drop in here. Boom. Let's talk about some of the other games that are to be. Great. That didn't work. I'm sorry, everyone. Let's try that one again. The audio, that was my fault. It was overlay stuff. I was hoping it wouldn't drop out. It did. So we've got Essendon and Port Adelaide there at Marvel Stadium on Thursday night. Carlton and the Bulldogs. Obviously, so that's now. Carlton and the Bulldogs Friday night at Marvel Stadium as well. Marvel Stadium's getting a fair working over across Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I hope my audio is good now. Please, someone let me know if it's not working yet. Melbourne and the Gold Coast, the MCG Saturday, St Kilda and Richmond at Marvel on Saturday. Hawthorn and the Giants, I've spoken about this already, the horrible scheduling where they are playing at the same time as us on Saturday night. Sunday, you've got Adelaide and North Melbourne, and West Coast and Fremantle in what I have dubbed horrendously in the last couple of weeks because the name escaped me. It's a derby, but I'm going to call it the Western Smash because why not? At this point, I've made the mistake. I've made my bed. I'll lay in it. They're your matchups for the week. And, of course, Collingwood and Sydney have the bye. All right. We're talking about some people, some individuals who are feeling a bit of a sting at the moment. I'm just going to shuffle this around now since I've already messed it up once. I'll try and get there we go. We'll get the lower thirds working again. There's some individuals, some coaches that are under a bit of heat this week. And we can, talk about those a little bit. Some of these matchups are going to be fairly important, I think, for a few of those individuals. Michael Voss, obviously, at Carlton. A lot of the Carlton supporters, I've heard from quite a few in the last week or so, who are really starting to throw the toys out of the cot and get upset about the way Carlton's going. Their beloved Carlton Football Club, who are depleted by injuries and perhaps should be expected at this point to be struggling at this point of the season, but doesn't matter. They expect to be winning a flag, as in their fans expect to be winning a flag. So here we are. Justin Longmuir, obviously very importantly got close to Sydney. They didn't get the job done. I think it was really competitive, and I don't think he's necessarily lost any fans yet, but the heat's going to continue to build, especially if there's some sort of upset here against West Coast. Brad Scott at Essendon. I'll try and have a quick look at the scores right now. They are losing 2 goals, 5-17 to 3 goals, 5-23 right now to Port. As long as it's not a blowout, I don't think his the equilibrium is thrown off too much at Essendon, but they're in a bad way. And Simon Goodwin, conveniently enough, I think it was Unfiltered, I think is the show that Hamish McLaughlin hosts for Channel 7. Had a conversation there with him for the show. I suspect it was canned weeks and weeks ago, but the D's are in a pretty bad place right now. So he's going to start to feel some real scrutiny soon. And, you can see the fans are starting to get upset. There was a clip going around where they were abusing him as they were, which is not good, by the way, but they were abusing him as they were heading down the race. And some of them saying, kind of referencing the fact that 2021, the premiership there was quite a few years ago now. Like, you can't keep relying on that one. It's time to pull your finger out and actually compete once again. Tonight's game, we've alluded to it a few times now. The Dons have lost 8 straight against Port. It's going to be 9. I've got Port winning. I think it was by 28 points. I think I tipped them by in my footy tips selection. So let's see how that goes, because I got the margin on the money last week. We've got our top 4 clash between the Hawks and the Giants to focus on. And please, if you haven't already, check out the tipping point. I took over it this week. I go through all of my selections for this week's game. I've kind of alluded to those a little bit there, but I expand on all of those with the tipping point video on Monday. Go check that one out. And Ben will be resuming hosting duties this coming Monday. All right. Before we get to our player spotlight. Let me get I'm trying to work out some new setups for some of our back end stuff here. So bear with me as I'm making some dodgy clicks from time to time. Before we get to our next segment, which is our player spotlight, we are going to be talking about Jack Henry tonight. Let's take a word from our sponsor.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for your ongoing support of the Hoops Crew and all we get up to. Now, let's move on to our player spotlight for tonight, which is focused on Jack Henry. I guess, concede last year I was getting quite critical of him at an early stage of the season, early to mid stage of the season. There was, and I don't know if Brendan's there, it always gets a good chuckle out of him whenever I drop this. I gave him a nickname early in the season last year because I don't think his body was quite right and he was struggling a little bit and he was kind of getting pantsed in some contests there. I called him Foreskin because when things get hard, he disappears. Sorry to any children who might be listening who've just had a horrific image appear in their minds, and really anyone else who just had to, envisage that. But I walked a lot of that back as the season played out. I think in retrospect, he really just needed to build into his season. He was clearly coming from a platform that wasn't quite as consistent as it had been in the past. And so he struggled a little bit early on in the piece. But he really built his way into the season quite nicely, and I think was a really important player through the back end of the season and has started this season on fire for the Cats. He is leading the competition in marks right now with 24, I think it is. Let's go through some background. At the moment, it was harsh, and I think at the time I was right to make those comments. As I said, I kind of walked away from those as the back end of the season played out because I think he really improved, and right now he's starting like a house on fire. So I've got no concerns now. It was harsh at the time. I think it was kind of justified at the time, but I'm very happy to have been able to walk that one back. I am not Kane Corns. If I make a call and I turn out to be wrong, I will concede that I am wrong. Much love to Kane Corns. All right. Jack Henry is a lifelong Cats fan. He's not going anywhere, people. I don't know if Ollie was a lifelong Cats fan as well, but Jack was, and that's all that matters. He was originally from the Geelong Falcons and St. Mary's, the sporting club there, selected as a 2016 rookie draft selection. What? I do this much better. But anyway, I'm better. I'm not a wannabe. I admit when I'm wrong. I won't be wrong about the footy tips this week, Ben. He was selected in the rookie draft. Again, Geelong's got a great history of plucking players from obscurity and making them into guns. Jack Henry fits that bill perfectly. He debuted in round 2 of 2018 against the Hawks. Pretty epic matchup, if you recall. And was well known for his athletic abilities, including his ability to cover that ground. Like he really covers some serious terrain from time to time, either, locking down on a forward or, in his ability to kind of float up the ground and be impactful there as well. His marking ability is great. His speed with ball in hand is quite impressive for someone of his size. He's got a lot of really useful assets. Ben says he has never skipped a leg day, and I wouldn't rule it out because he's quite strong through the hips. He rarely gets shoved off the ball in any significant way. Whole family of Cats fans. His mum is a great lady. That's awesome. We always like to hear that the mums are excellent individuals. Shout out to all the mums out there. He's played 145 games, kicked 24 goals, As I mentioned, he is currently ranked number 1 in the AFL for marks. He's taken 24 to the season so far. And in 2018, he did get himself a Rising Star nomination. We've been talking about nominations a bit this week, obviously with Connor O'Sullivan receiving one. We alluded then to Ollie Dempsey and the one that he got against St Kilda last year, where he went on to win the Rising Star award all up. Look forward to Connor O'Sullivan winning it this year. Joel Seld, we've got a long history of players winning Rising Star nominations and the Rising Star itself. Jack Henry was another Rising Star nominee back in 2018, round 7 against the Giants. In 2021, he was the Kaji Greaves runner-up in his 4th season. In 2022, it was a bit of a mixed bag for Jack Henry. He was, of course, a part of a fairly iconic moment, Buddy kicking his 1,000th goal. He was the person matched up against Buddy early in the piece, but was also in the same, against Buddy, matched up against Buddy in the 2022 grand final, where he kept him to 1 behind and we obliterated the Swans. I think he'll accept the 1,000th goal for the Premiership medal. In 2023, his brother came to join him, Ollie, who's been fantastic ever since. Please, everyone, I don't think anyone in the chat is losing sight of how valuable Jack Henry is, because, of course, Ollie's more of a goal scorer, and that there's a bit more star factor that comes with that. Jack, equally important to the Cats, doing an incredible, incredible job. He missed a large chunk of 2023. I think this is really where my justified concerns, but perhaps, as I at the moment said, overly harsh concerns in 2024 came in. He missed a large chunk of 2023 due to 2 issues in his left foot, one of those being a Liz Frank ligament injury, and that really hampered him throughout the remainder of that season. Of course, in retrospect, really was probably still limiting him a little bit through 2024, certainly early on, and that's why he probably was a bit slow to get out the gates. Ben shouts out that 2022 mark. That kept the run of wins going and is still one of my fondest footballing memories. The way he took that mark, clunked it, kicked the goal, especially given the immense dislike that we have formed for Richmond since 2017 in particular. It's going to live rent-free in my mind, that one, and hopefully in the minds of Richmond fans as well. Where would I rate Jack Henry against some of the best key backs in the comp? He doesn't get a mention, and I think a lot of that is because he's not really as flashy as some of the others. He does play that more stay-at-home sort of role. He doesn't necessarily rebound as much as maybe you see from a Darcy Moore, who obviously gets a lot of attention. But I also think that's because Darcy Moore's not really a genuine key defensive player. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing in that respect. I think he's, especially when he's fit, and we're seeing a fit Jack Henry at the moment, I think he's right up there with the best. Is he quite of the same sort of level as a Harris Andrews? Probably not, but I think he's that next tier down, and you know exactly what you're going to get. I don't really feel like there's any key forwards in this game right now that he would fear or be concerned about, which I think is what you want. I think he's more than capable of running with a Charlie Curnow, for example. He can deal with a Jesse Hogan for similar sorts of reasons. There's no real big brutes out there that can throw people around. Tom Lynch is quite limited these days. Tom Lynch would probably be an obstacle for him, but Tom Lynch is not really what he was. I don't see anyone being a concern to him anymore. And maybe there's someone that, you know, every now and then kicks 2 or 3, but you'll take a bag, quote unquote, of 2 or 3 against him as opposed to, you know, someone kicking 4 or 5 or more. I don't think he fears anyone. So I'm really, really happy with what he's contributing in that regard. And I, at the moment, also shouts out that epic play that he was part of. Was a big 125-meter play that resulted in the goal against the Hawks in 2021. That was absolutely epic, as I, at the moment, says. I adore it still to this day. It was just a beautiful piece of play. But yeah, that's the Jack Henry story. I think he's, as I've already alluded to, I think he's going to be super important in this matchup against the Lions. His ability to shut down Sam Day Eric Hipwood will sort himself out. But his ability to shut down Sam Day and Logan Morris is going to be super important. I think he's more than up to that challenge. And yeah, he's one of the best key defensive players in the competition. Next up, let's discuss some news, and we are going to try and weave this into our Q&A segment a little bit here because there's quite a few topics to discuss. But I'd love to hear some of your thoughts as we go. So please drop those thoughts in the live chat tonight, and I'll try and pin those. We'll discuss those. as we go. First up, Tom Morris, everyone's favourite reporter, is breaking the news that Sam De Koning's 2-year extension is soon to be announced. Fantastic news for the Cats because, of course, there has been the speculation he would go to St Kilda or maybe even the Gold Coast in some sort of Matt Rowell transaction. Not to be. He's remaining a Cat. Again, curious to see long-term what they do with him, whether he continues to play in the ruck, whether he goes to play key defence. He's got some chops as a forward as well. He's a very versatile unit. Keen to see what comes of that. But 2 years more with Sam De Koning before he's, I presume, a free agent at that point. And we're going to have to pay him big bucks to hold on to him then. Brian Myers is in talks as well to extend his contract. He is a pre-agent this year. But I don't see any concerns with him either. I think he'll stay without any fuss. I don't think he'll try and drive a huge deal. I think he's very team-oriented. I think he's keen to win himself another premiership and will do what is required to help build that list up. Some other Geelong news that kind of links to the broader competition as well. Paddy Dangerfield has stepped down as the AFLPA president. Darcy Moore is taking over that gig. I know there was a lot of non-Geelong supporting fans who are criticising Danger, who criticised Darcy Moore. I think the handover is great. I think Dangerfield's done a fantastic job for the most part, and Darcy Moore is going to do a great job there as well. I think he's probably done an excellent job in really building up Darcy's capacity to step into that role and be an advocate for players of the competition. But it also, I think, importantly, gives Danger some more time to focus on himself, focus on his football, focus on the Geelong Football Club, as opposed to some of those larger competition-wide issues, which I'm sure he'll have thoughts on. I'm sure he'll support Darcy Moore with when those come up, but he can just focus a bit more on himself, and I think that's super important. All right, some other topics for discussion tonight. Noah Bolter. I put together a video back in January, I think, about it would have been January or just before, because it was a New Year's thing. So, like the first week of January, talking about Noah Bolter and an assault. He is potentially looking at up to 5 years in jail for that assault. The video came out today. It's not a good look. If you're not into violence of any sort, don't watch the video. It seems, there's no audio, but it seems pretty unprovoked. It's not a good look. The video's out there, so I feel far more comfortable talking about that than certain other issues in the Geelong and AFL systems at the moment. We'll see how it goes. I think it's April where he returns to court to kind of face sentencing and those sorts of things. So I think it'll be pretty clear cut for the most part. I know the two sides are arguing over the severity, but I think there's an absence from football that's coming for Noah Bolter, I think, and another big hit to the Tigers. Harley Reid, he's feeling a lot of pressure at the moment, certainly in part for flipping off the Brisbane crowd, but his football's not quite there. There's a lot of criticism starting to emerge about the shape that he's gotten himself into for season 2025. And I put together a video the other day where Geelong could start sniffing. Of course, he's got a love of the Geelong Football Club going back to being a child. Maybe we're a chance. I don't think we're by any means the favourites. And I know there was a lot of very strong thoughts shared in the comment section on that video, with some not wanting him to come to the Cats. And I think, his temperament and maybe not fitting in culturally is part of the concern there. I think there's a lot that he could add in time, but I think we need to see some change. There's a lot of Jason Horne-Francis at North Melbourne sort of energy going on here. So I'm not willing to, rule him out as a footballer or think that he is no good as a Cat. He might just need to come home. And if he is a Cat, then fantastic. That's even better. The new Queensland Stadium is going to be built. There's been a lot of talk about the Gabba for quite some time. Of course, we're going to be playing there this Saturday night. After the 2032 Olympics, the Gabba will be bulldozed. And the new stadium that will be built for the Olympics will become the home of the Brisbane Lions. I'm really interested to see how that one comes about. And whilst it's not in our doc here where we kind of go through some of the topics of discussion for the night, the Tasmanian Stadium continues to have a bit of controversy follow it. Cricket Australia is lobbying for there to be no roof or potentially even a retractable one because of the way it would cast shadow onto the cricket pitch when it's cricket season. The AFL still has the no roof, no stadium, no football, no play thing in place here, and I think football will win out in this case because there's still cricketing options in Tasmania. Imagine Gout getting a gold medal in his hometown. Yeah, I mean, it'd be brilliant. This guy is an absolute jet. All the talk is that he's just going to continue to clock 10-second races for his entire career. Like he's unreal, this guy. A freak, as they say in sports circles. Really keen to see what he can do. There is an 8,000-seat football ground that was proposed for Cardinia Park. There's also a bit of talk about basketball stadiums in Geelong and in that Cardinia Park precinct as well, as there's talk to try and get the Geelong-based NBL team up and running again. Really keen to see how that one plays out as well. And finally, casting an eye forward to draft time for a moment here, I just want to shout out a few players, both father and son, or just associates of Geelong players who could be in the running for father-son selection or selection for Geelong in the 2025 draft this year. Hunter Holmes, that's Max's brother. Jack Graham, Ben's son. Jagger Mooney, Cam Mooney's son. And of course, there's been a bit of talk about Jagger Mooney in the last few years. Boston Riccardi, so that's Paul Riccardi's son. And Ollie Greaves, who is the grandnephew of Karji. Now, of course, he won't be a father-son, but there's a lot of family ties there. It would be nice if he somehow landed at the Cats as well. All of those players are eligible for selection by the Cats in the 2025 National Draft. Whether they get picked up by the Cats or another team remains to be seen. We've, of course, got some father-sons in that mix, 3 of them. It'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. And, of course, there's so many other priorities that the Cats will have too. How do you get all the picks? What happens if how much do we have to give away if we go for another big-name recruit? It'll be really interesting in that space. That is the agenda for tonight. So I want to get into some Q&A. We are, of course, also going to talk about the game of the week, as in video game of the week. And we've got a nice chunky 4-minute trail that we're going to go through shortly. But first, let's hit the comments here. It's dried up a little bit in the last 10 minutes as we're running through the news. But if you've got questions, comments, concerns that you want to share about the Geelong and Brisbane game, about what's going on with Essendon and Port Adelaide at the moment, I might try and make sure that I share that game. Let's get that going as we speak. Hang on, let's go. Where is it? There it is. Right now, the Bombers 2-9. Oh, some inaccuracy. 2-9-21 going down, losing to the Power 4-6-30. Inaccuracy across both sides of the ledger there, but Bombers particularly poor kicking for goal tonight. Who's responsible? Let's have a bit of a look here. Behinds. Mitch Georgiades with 2. Oh, and then it's just a whole bunch of singles. Of course, Harry Jones has missed one. He can't kick to save himself. Dersma, Thomas Edwards, John Menzies. Yeah, okay, so it's a bit of a spread there. But Mitch Georgiades with 2 goals for Port. Singles to Sam Draper, Nate Caddy, Darcy Byrne-Jones, and Travis Boak. Disposals, what do we got here? Zach Merritt, of course, leading with 18. The game's terrible, Jackie says. Dylan Shield with 15. Jace Burgoyne, who's really continuing to establish himself in this game with 15. Ollie Wines, Christian Murray with 13. And Miles Bergman with 13 as well. Bergman with a lot of conversation following him at the moment about his future at the Port Adelaide Football Club, though I suspect Port will try to lock him down given all of the important kind of half-back players they've lost in the last 12 months. We'll keep those scores there for the time being. Please let me know what you are thinking, what questions, comments, concerns you might have, all things Geelong or the broader AFL. There's plenty of hoops content that is out there at the moment that we can discuss. I put together a video on Harley Reid a couple of days ago. Ollie Lord, I had a video go up about him potentially coming to the Cattery. That is also live on the YouTube channel. I'm going to quickly go across to the channel just to make sure there's nothing else I'm forgetting. I, of course, referenced the tipping point earlier. The Chaps Chat Cats have got their preview of the Geelong and Brisbane game there, as well as the VFL men update. So go check out that one too. Been consumed by lots of people so far. Really great to see that people are tuning in en masse, to see what Jake has to say all about the VFL side and some of those players from the AFL team who are playing in the seconds at the moment. Please consider checking out all of the content we've got there. I also put up a video about Connor O'Sullivan, his Rising Star nomination. So much good stuff there. Please consider checking it out. But what questions do people have? Or, while I allow time for that, should I jump across and check out our game of the week? Hearing really positive things. I mean, he's injured according to your injury list. Is that still correct, Ben, or is it a bit out of date? Where's the medical report? Medical. Latest news. Oh, hang on. Health Hub. Xavier Visick is still out for 2 to 4 weeks. So, Ben, I don't know what positive things you're hearing. He hasn't been playing. Isaac Rechko. Yeah, he's been performing quite well so far. That's been really good to hear. Cats, Lions, Hawks, Giants could be the prelims. We have to be the game of the round. Hawks are in Tassie. I mean, absolutely. And we don't want to celebrate or acknowledge the Hawks any more than we have to. So yeah, Cats and Lions, game of the round as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the scheduling is just abysmal here. They had the opportunity to give Geelong and Brisbane some space, as well as the Hawks and Giants game. Instead, they've decided to pit what I'll believe at this point to be the top four teams against each other at the exact same time. The logic astounds me. It's astoundingly stupid from the AFL, but are we surprised at this point? I'm skimming through that injury list. Oh, yeah, I don't think there's anyone we missed. Toby Conway's been doing a bit of work. He's continued to build up his capacity coming back from a back injury. That's really good to see as well. I don't think he was one that was on the list earlier. But yeah, we're getting there, bit by bit by bit. How do you think we will go this weekend if it's fully wet and raining? Are there any new players you think would be better in the rain? It feels like we're playing smaller and more athletic as things stand now. I feel like they've made some selections based upon the weather already. I think about the fact that Reece Stanley, for example, has come off the emergencies list. Now, I have speculated there's a chance he may come on if Tom Stewart comes out, is no longer in the team. But it feels like we are playing a bit smaller this week than usual because of the weather. We're playing small. We're playing more ground ball, more athletic football this week. So I think we've selected for that already. I think. Question about George Stevens from Nigel Goonberry. George Stevens is lighting it up in the VFL at the moment. I'll see if I can quickly bring up the numbers. VFL stats. I'll bring up the match center. His numbers from round 1 were pretty amazing, if I recall. I know we spoke about it on Sunday. I can't remember the exact details now. So bear with me for a second as I find those. But he came out the blocks really, really well in the game against Sandy. Player stats, disposals. George Stevens had 26 disposals, 12 kicks, 14 handballs, 5 tackles, 3 marks. And can I look at the clearance figures? Where is he? It's all shuffled out of order now. No center clearances, though, which is... Oh, hang on. No one's got center clearances. They're not recording that stat. Score involvements, he had 1. Tackles inside 50. Disposal efficiency, where's his disposal? 69.2, that's all right. Lots of contested possessions. A really good game from George Stevens as far as I'm concerned. He's building quite nicely. I'm really, really keen on how he is developing as a footballer. And there we go. Jackie backs it up. Played really well on Sunday, would say his best game. Yeah, I mean, statistically speaking, I haven't watched the game. Statistically speaking, it is the best game that he's put together so far. We'll see how that goes. At the moment, talking about Bailey Smith being good in the wet. He's got a great track record there. And maybe the Irishman Mullen. Hopefully a debut later in the year for George Stevens. I think that, yeah, there's opportunity for that. I think through that mid-stage of the season when we're playing some of those weaker teams, presumably weaker teams as things stand, I think there's some real opportunity in that space as well. Yeah, I won't. I'm trying to work out what I will and won't say here. I know Nick Austin, Carlton's head of recruitment, and he had a lot to say actually come draft time. I actually caught up with him the day after the draft, something like that, within a couple of days of the draft anyway. And I asked him what his thoughts were on the players that we picked up, and he at the time was really stunned that we actually went for George Stevens. He very happily overlooked George Stevens because of his perceived lack of athleticism. And certainly, like he was a far tankier player. He was much slower than most players out there. He was quick to point out that he reckons he could run faster than George Stevens. And maybe that was true, but he's done a lot of work on his body. He's slimmed down. He's become that more athletic player. He's still, as either moment says, and Josh Jenkins has said, he's not the burst player from the contest, but he's that big-bodied bull who I think is going to be really important for us in the future. So I'm really happy to have him on our list, and I look forward to him getting some game time in the future. I think he's going to be a perfect foil for your Max Holmes and your Bailey Smiths and co, who are more than capable at the coalface, but can utilize their speed. He can be the one that's absolutely at the bottom of the contest, locking it down or extracting it, and those guys can break away from it with speed. I think he's going to be, as Jackie says, really good in congestion going forward. So let's see how that one continues to develop. Do we have any other questions, comments, concerns that we want to hit up? Of course, don't hesitate to... The Shield is coming home after 30s. Lucas, slow down. I saw those current results before. Admittedly, they took the lead with the final ball of the day, but the Bulls are in front as things stand. What are we? Let me take a bit of a look. Queensland leads by 1 run with 7 wickets remaining. And they've got some established batsmen out there at the moment, Ben McDermott and Jack Clayton. So it's not over till it's over. I mean, the Bulls got bowled out for 95 in their first innings. There's no reason why the same sort of thing couldn't befall the Redbacks, the South Australian team late in the piece. I suspect it won't happen. I think South Australia have every right to be the red-hot favourites at this point. But, mate, you know what cricket's like. Don't count them out. Batting collapse can happen very, very quickly. Don't count those chickens just yet. But you would be the favourites in my mind. Absolutely. I've got absolutely no idea. Geelong locals, you can definitely speak to this more. I know where Armstrong Creek is. I've got a couple of mates that have lived there and live there. But I was not aware of this conversation at all about a training venue at Armstrong Creek. Someone shouted out. I'll happily pin the comments there so that it's being seen by all. What else have we got? Please, if you haven't already, consider utilizing that super chat functionality. For any of those comments you really want to pin, if you're just looking to do a little bit to try and help out the Hoops crew and what we're doing, how we're continuing to build, don't hesitate to use that super chat functionality. I don't know what Ben has set as the goal for this one. It could be really, really problematic if that's the case. Has he set a goal? No, he hasn't set a goal for this one. Good. There's nothing embarrassing I'm going to do. All right. The pants and shorts are coming off and we'll storm the field. That's certainly a reaction, I suppose. We'll see. Just all I'm saying is just take it easy. You know what cricket can be like. Let's not get too carried away. Nigel with a really intriguing question. Who would you rather snag come trade period between Jamara Ugelhagen and Matty Rowell? Now, since I recorded the video the other day, it does seem like Matty Rowell is getting closer and closer to signing with the Suns. And so we may re-signing with the Suns, I should say. And this may not be a point of conversation for us anyway. But schoolyard pick right now, and I'm selecting one to join the club. I'm going with Matt Rowell. I think he is that perfect Joel Selwood replacement. He's that, what George Stevens, I hope, will one day be, that bull at the coalface, contested animal, with the poise and class of hopefully Joel Selwood as well. But I don't know if we're going to get him as things stand. So Matt Rowell would be fantastic. Fingers are crossed. Jamara, I think, will be really valuable as well. But at the same time, he comes into a team right now where we've got Jeremy Cameron, we've got Ollie Henry, we've got Shannon Neal, we've got tall options that can kick goals. But he's the one that I feel like is more likely of the two right now, with his connections to kind of Western Victoria. He was a Warrnambool boy, if I remember. He's also absolutely lost a lot of trade value. And if anyone caught the conversation that, what's his name? I've just gone blank on their coach's name. Bulldogs coach. Oh, Luke Beveridge. Sorry, Luke Beveridge. I don't even need to search it. Get rid of it. Get out of here. Luke Beveridge. He was not very definitive or overly supportive at all in an interview he did with Footy Classified during the week. So, yeah, I mean, I think Jamara is more likely, but I would rather Matt Rowell, I guess, is my answer there. And Nomad Hunter says, hey, Paul, the Cats need to go big for Matt Rowell and TDK. Forget Harley and Jamara. Neither are good cultural fits. I mean, look, when it comes to cultural fits, I think a lot of people would have questioned Bailey Smith as well. He seems to fit in quite well so far. We'll see how that plays out in time. So I'm not overly concerned about cultural, unless like they are absolutely horrific. If we're pulling in a Ben Cousins story, for example, I'm pretty anxious. We're not at that point with either Harley Reid or Jamara Ugle-Hagan, and I'm aware of what both are kind of battling with at the moment, especially Jamara. I've got plenty of tips on that one. And we're not talking about a Ben Cousins style, level of baggage that I guess we're bringing into the competition. So I'm comfortable with it if the Geelong Football Club will be able to support him, will be able to rehabilitate and kind of, I guess, reingratiate him into football and have the supports that he needs to come good. But yeah, he wouldn't be my pick right now. Who would you rather, trade in a player or father-sons? Right now, because I'm not hearing, oh my God, Jack Graham, oh my God, Jagger Mooney, oh my God, Boston Riccardi, they're going to get some rolled gold here through the father-son. I'm not hearing that sort of chatter yet. So I would rather trade someone in right now. I'd rather trade in a gun. But if that changes over the course of the year, if some of those father-sons, and I'll just bundle Hunter Holmes and Ollie Greaves into this as well as heavily connected players who are very, very heavily connected to the Geelong Football Club. If those players start to really come on, I might change my tone. But as we stand right, so this is a question I absolutely want to revisit as the year goes on. Yeah, I'm keen to revisit this one later in the year. Sharing some of the thoughts here. Nigel Goomberry saying, I'd say Jamara Ugle-Hagan because if Jez or Scratch go down, then our tall stocks are pretty barren. It's true. That is absolutely true. And it is kind of a pressing concern going into this year that if something happens, we are vulnerable. Is Bailey Smith mates with Jamara? Yes, I believe so. And that probably helps, I think, in any sort of pitch. That interview with Bevo was more awkward than answering the phone on the toilet. Made me appreciate Scotty a bit more. Look, I mean, you're right. It was awkward. There was also this really awkward baggage between him and Tom Morris that was and wasn't addressed. It was kind of ridiculous. Bevo was pretty childish still in the way he handled it. I'm not saying that Tom Morris has done the right thing. If he's an arsehole, let's call a spade here. Tom Morris has proven to be a bit of a dick on many occasions, and he's been let back into this system far too easily. But if we set that aside for a moment, Bevo didn't like the fact that he reported on the club, and Bevo was a bit of a child about it. He really kind of continued where he wouldn't accept that bygones are bygones and we can move on. He just continued to kind of nurture that dislike between the two parties. Honestly, I'm not sure if Tom Stewart should be playing, but we've got to have faith in our medical team. Yeah, I trust the medical team. I also, wouldn't rule out the possibility that he doesn't play at the end of the day. Lockie Miller jumps in and says, Tyson Stengel's kicking 5 goals on Saturday. You'd love to see it. These are sort of conditions made for him. I think he'll thrive. We'll see how it goes. Can't believe Mullen is still in the team. Yeah, I think you are far from the only person with that sentiment. Last week he had 0 kicks and 5 ineffective handballs. He needs more time in the twos to learn the game. Yes. Wholeheartedly, yes. I'd love to get Hunter Holmes. Don't even know what type of player he is, but gotta love brothers. Let's do some Googling. Hunter Holmes. AFL. What have we got here? There's not a lot said in this AFL article. We can look at Play HQ, but it says 100 games. I don't know if this is the same one. 23, 21. Playing the under-19s men's for that's 2024. He'd be mature age in that case, so this can't be the same. I don't think there's too much reporting out there, but I'm sure his name will pop up a little bit as the year plays out. But if he's got any of that similar sort of athleticism that Max does, I mean, he's going to attract a lot of attention because of what Max has done. I think that's going to add to his trade value. I think teams are going to even if he's kind of a real smoky, teams will get speculative and try and pick him up. So Geelong's got to find a way to pry him out early, I think. I'm not addressing Tanner Bruin. If people, and sorry, this is not a you thing. It's a hesitancy, I think, from anyone who commentates about football to talk about what is going on with the Tanner Bruin situation at the moment. If you want my thoughts, as much as I am comfortable and willing to share, on Patreon, I published a video there. It was an episode of the Scratching Post about a week ago where I spoke about Tanner Bruin and why we won't really be commenting publicly about that situation. So I've got thoughts on it. I've got concerns on it, but please, it's just a topic that I don't really want to broach. Where are we? Tom Stewart's going to dominate in the wet again. I mean, he's hoping, especially if he comes good, really keen to see what he can deliver. If we play a really small forward line, could Neil have a stint in the ruck? That is certainly an option. That is one to consider. That's a really interesting scenario. I'm keen to see how that one plays out. Big Gloop, mate, you have strong words towards others. I hope you have no baggage of your own to talk as such. I don't. But what you might have to clarify in the comments further what strong words I mentioned. There's a lot of words that get thrown around when you're in a live stream and you're kind of just trying to talk constantly. So I might have been a bit heavy-handed with something I said. Please clarify in the comments what I mean. I'm happy to revisit the conversation. You want him to have a bad year so we can draft him? That'd be, I mean, yeah, sure. We just pick him up for pick 70 or something outrageous. If we get the father, sons, and Hunter in the coming years, our future will be great. Again, let's not get too carried. The thing I mentioned before is I haven't really seen much conversation. I know it's super early days, of course, for even under 18s competitions, but I haven't seen much conversation yet about these father, sons, and thank you, Big Gloop. I'll quickly address that in a second then. I just haven't seen much reporting about them yet. And it is early days, but hopefully they come piling up the order and really assert themselves through the competition this year, and that father-son options become viable. Hunter, well, obviously we've got to just fight all the 17 other teams in the comp who might want him. When it comes to Bevo and Morris, look, I'll stand by that. I think Bevo was quite childish in the way he responded to simply a question from Tom Morris. And, Tom had obviously, he'd been doing a lot of investigative work into the Dogs at the time and where they're at. And there was some questions and concerns, and Bevo didn't like it, and he clapped back, and he's well within his rights to clap back as well. But then to kind of behave in the way, and I rewatched the press conference during this week because there was a little bit of hype, like Channel 9 was trying to hype it up before Footy Classified. So I went and checked out the clip. And I really didn't like the way he behaved in that one. I'm not saying that Tom Morris doesn't deserve a whack, because when you are the coach of a football club, you are trying to put out a really overwhelmingly positive message. Even in a loss, you're trying to find positives in the negatives. And when you've got someone who's kind of poking the bear a little bit, it gets hard to keep up appearances. But I've got no problem with Tom Morris asking the questions that he asked at the time. I've got concerns with Tom Morris and some of the things that he's said about women that got him in trouble. And I think I'm not saying that you can't earn your way back in, but I think you need to do more. And I think there needs to be more outwardly visible that you're, kind of, I guess, trying to atone for mistakes. We've all made mistakes, big and small. We've all said things that perhaps we shouldn't have. And like I said, you referenced in the first place that, I was, what did you say? They were strong words towards them. There's so much that people say that you don't even realize at the time may have been more significant. I didn't realize that there was, I sounded overly harsh when it came to the matter in the first place. It's kind of a natural thing, but yeah, I've got no concerns at all with what I said and the way I said it. I think Bevo, wasn't at his best in that moment. And I think he wasn't at his best even during the Footy Classified interview during this week. And I think Tom Morris needs to, it's too late. He's kind of back in. But I think the footballing industry needs to do more to make statements to the public. And I don't we're not meant to be a vehicle for political, we being football. Football is not a vehicle to make political statements. I don't think it is a game, and it should be treated as such. But I also think that when someone oversteps the boundaries and they do something particularly sexist as he did, or if you say something and do something racist or whatever, you can't just get back in within a few months. You need to go back, reflect, do some work, do some good, proper inner work, show the society before you return that you are trying to make things right, that you've realized that there was an error to your ways and that you're trying to make it right. And it's not to say he didn't do anything, but no one would know it. And I think that's important when you're a public figure. How much game time do we give Danger in the wet? Plenty. Absolutely. But I guess how much midfield time will be the real key question, because he will thrive in these conditions, I think. A Nomad, if you're still watching tonight, Ben is wanting for you to get in touch to get your free pizza. Please make sure to reach out to Ben. You were the recipient of the pizza from Post Game Live the other night, so please enjoy it. Thank you to those kind of sharing some support for my stance towards Bevo and Tom Morris. Amy, I don't think any of the father-son options are in Ashcroft. Absolutely not. And look, to be fair, not the worst thing in the world, because you have to pay a king's ransom to, pry out an Ashcroft from the draft. And you watch, because it's Geelong, we'll have to pony up pick one. It'll be the first team in the draft that'll go for him. And this has been ridiculous in my, for Ashcroft to go anything up. He was a top 5 pick, and maybe in the eyes of some, he wasn't the number 1 pick. But if you are a competing team, you pick him with pick 1, knowing that Brisbane are going to do it, and make him pay the highest price possible. This is a competitive business, and there was a lack of competition there. It's the same with Nick Dacos. He should have gone number 1 as well. It's just insanity, this sort of stuff. That the clubs are too polite in this scenario. You are competing against these other teams, so make them pay the fullest price. That's enough on that matter at the moment. What did we say? Personally, I would like to get Jagger Mooney, Hunter Holmes, and one of our trade targets, maybe a Matt Rao. What would your preference be with drafts or trades? I think, yeah, I guess to the point before that someone made, and sorry, I can't remember who made it. I'm going to struggle to find it as I scroll back, not without stalling for too long. The comments about key forward stocks, I think it's really important we try and find ourselves a key forward. Maybe Jagger Mooney or Jack Graham fit that bill as kind of young key forwards coming through. The Hunter Holmes one, I mean, yeah, could be speculative. I've really heard nothing for the most part outside of an article that references that he's a brother coming through. He would be fantastic, but we're going to have to get creative to get him, I think. Yeah, we'll see. I should actually finish that question. So you would like Jagger Mooney, Holmes, and one of our trade targets, maybe a Matt Rowell, and what would my preference be with the draft or trades? Yeah, tall forward. The rest, I think I'm going to have to wait and see how players continue to develop over the year. If our Nevitts and our Stevenses and our Jai Clarks and those guys continue to develop as they are, Ted Closey for that matter as well, they continue to develop like they have been developing so far, then our midfield unit is pretty good for a while. And we can perhaps think about key position players, perhaps invest bigger in a ruckman than we have in the past. We'll see how we go. Nigel Goonbury, we should sell out on picks, trade in 3 superstars and a free kit at pick 70. I mean, we'd find a way to make it work. Danders is back. Just a public service announcement. Medical services have advised no one tune into Eston versus Port due to risk of being bored to death. Oh my God. Yeah, this is ridiculous. What's the weather like there? Is it awful? It can't be. I only live 45 minutes out of the city. There's not been a drop of rain around here. Moving on. Oh, and the roof's closed. So there we go. Go figure. I can't wait to finish this show and not watch that game. Who should Richmond have picked at pick 1? Sorry, maybe I... Oh, yeah, sorry, we're referencing Ashcroft. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's you're not disrespecting the person who you genuinely believe is pick 1 that you pick straight afterwards, but you are making clubs pay the premium, and I think that is fair. So that's where I'm at. Here we go. More Bevo stuff. I think Kane Corns is irrational when it comes to the Dogs, but Bevo comes off as an unprofessional, moody teenager. Don't be afraid of true opinions. That's why I'm here. Thanks, Glenn. I'll continue to kind of, whilst hopefully not being disrespectful in the process, and please, I really do hope, and I'll say this, right now, if anyone at any point through a live stream or some other video that I put together believes at any stage that I'm being disrespectful in the way that I speak about an individual, and I know that, I had a clip at some reporting in The Age a while ago where I was pretty blunt and on the nose with my thoughts there. Hopefully people understood it to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek. But if anyone at any point feels like I'm being genuinely disrespectful or I'm not a professional in this space but unprofessional, then please call me out on it. But yeah, someone like Kane Corns, who is a professional, someone like Bevo, who is a professional in this space, they can do better. But Kane Corns is very much the shock jock. He is the Kyle Sandilands of the AFL industry. I hope that comparison sticks. He's the Kyle Sandilands of the AFL industry, and as such, he's going to make comments that are inflammatory from time to time. He's going to be going for engagement. He's going to be going for clicks. He's going to be going for airtime. There's plenty of things he said that I absolutely agree with from time to time, I might add. But the way he carries on sometimes is a bit much. His continual drive-bys towards Tim Taranto, for example, I think is ridiculous. And he's entertaining. I think he's quite entertaining still. And I mean Kane. I think Kane is entertaining. He does, like, even if you don't agree with him, he gets conversations going as well about topics that perhaps need to be discussed. I'm all for what he's doing, but he does, every now and then kind of come across a bit of a Kyle Sandilands who's just going for bait. Chucky loves Kane Corns. Any other thoughts, or will we jump across to our game of the week before talking about some more footy news. I think it might be time. Let me make sure I've got everything working. This one is not for... I'm going to gradually... Oh, sorry, you didn't... No, I guess part of it... Sorry, I guess before I do jump into the game of the week now, which is going to be far more engaging to everyone, even if you're not gamers, it's going to be far more engaging than this Essendon Port Adelaide trash. Part of it will be the fact that we're on camera here, and I say what I say about Kane Corns. There's a bit of a hamming up, and again, everything's kind of rushed, and I'm just kind of presenting on my own here. But I'm kind of... I don't know if it's a good quality, bad quality. I am forgiving, but I am uncompromising in my expectations of the way people behave. My expectations are through the roof. Of course, people deserve forgiveness. Tom Morris, for example, deserves to be forgiven if he can do the inner work to get himself to where he needs to be. But yeah, I would say I'm uncompromising. I'm not unforgiving, but I am uncompromising. But I'm glad that we're getting to have this chat, and hopefully, I guess for anyone who tunes into all things hoops in the future and catches me on content, that hopefully this little conversation is perhaps giving you a bit more insight into where I'm coming from when it comes to certain topics. I am who I am, and I don't want to really change that when I'm on content. Unless, of course, there's something that comes along that prompts the reflection. We're getting too deep and meaningful. Let's talk about football and video games and other fun things. At the moment, will there be a late change? O'Connor tagging Neil? No, I still think that in this particular case that it actually might be Jack Bowes that tags Lachie Neale. That's my gut feel in this one, and that's what's going to save him from wearing the vest. All right. Let's remove some graphics here. Let's see if I can get everything. Nope, I don't need that graphic back. Let's stop sharing that. Let's go. StreamYard, you could be a better platform. You could let me, before I hit go on this, there is a franchise that I love very dearly that is celebrating its 20th anniversary this March, as a franchise anniversary this March. I'm trying to see if there's some evidence of this franchise in the background. Maybe when I go full screen again, let me see. Where are we? I can't. I'm in my own way. There's a Greek god and his son in the background there that is a really important video game character to me. We're going to celebrate the 20th anniversary of God of War tonight. So let me share the screen, bring across this. We'll go full screen, and everyone sit back and enjoy nearly 5 minutes of celebration of 20 years of God of War, a tribute to the big boy Kratos. I'll be back in a couple minutes.
Boy, listen close. I'm from a land called Sparta. I made a deal with the god that cost me my soul.
My life is yours, Ares. From this day, I shall carry forth your will. It was long ago.
I killed many who were deserving, and many who were not.
Burn this village! Burn it to the ground!
In the service of a cruel god, I was tricked into destroying a village. Not knowing my own wife and child were there until their blood stained my hands.
From this night forward, the mark of your terrible deed will be visible to all.
The gods of Olympus have abandoned me. Athena! The gods lied to me!
The wrath of Olympus grows. Do not turn your back on me.
All on Olympus tremble at my name. We will destroy the petty gods, and we will see Olympus crumble before us!
Look what you have wrought. You destroy all you touch.
You have your own sense of honor. And what has that honor brought you? In the end, you'll betray only yourself. I will tolerate your insolence no more.
I will have my revenge!
How much is enough, Kratos? When will it end?
You are just an animal. Resting on your cruelty and rage, you will never change.
My vengeance ends now.
Kratos.
You are cruel and arrogant and selfish.
I know who you are. I know what you've done.
But you are more than that. We are more than that. Who I was is not who you be. We must be better. The road ahead is long and unforgiving. You must be a warrior.
Can you kill something that big?
All right, God of War. It's, yes, as we've spoken about, it's celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. This is video game cinema. Like, this is top tier stuff. I am very fortunate to be able to consider David Jaffe, the original creator of the original PS2 game. I'm very grateful to be able to consider him a friend. I had him on my Dev Diary podcast a few years ago. And ever since then, we chat every now and then. We're not, thick as thieves, but we chat from time to time. He's contributed some great stuff to some of the work I do over the years. One of these days, we've spoken on a couple of occasions about maybe me popping up on some of his shows over the years. He's in the US, so getting the time zones right can be a bit of a headache. But I'm very fortunate to consider him a friend. And yeah, that's God of War. He created this incredible franchise that's gone on now since he's kind of moved on to spawn nearly a dozen games. It's 20th anniversary. There's a TV series in development or did it become a movie recently? There was a TV series. I think it's become a Netflix movie. or an Amazon movie, or something along those lines. No, Amazon. It's Amazon. Am I a game developer? No. I wish I had those chops. No, I'm not. I had I say had, it's past tense. I haven't. I'm going to have to check how long it's been since I've uploaded an episode now. No, I'm in games media. And even then, that's kind of on the side because games media is absolutely a dying art, especially written word. So I'm just gonna start dropping links because we've not really spoken about this in great detail over the last few years. I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now. Player2.net.au is where I am an editor at. I am one of the editors at Australian Outlet. We're a Metacritic accredited outlet, so we're one of the biggest in the country, and one of a very select few around the world who get to kind of, I guess, contribute our reviews to Metacritic, which is the big aggregate system in the video game landscape and kind of in film and stuff too. I'm an editor there. I do lots of reviews. I'm sitting on embargoed stuff all the time. And it's through Player 2 where I got to start my podcast, Dev Diary. I haven't uploaded an episode in 3 months. It's getting increasingly hard to kind of break through some barriers there. And interview some people, but sorry, I scrolled away from that. Games media as in reviewing and writing about games. Yeah. So I'm an editor there. I put together reviews. I put together previews. I put together video content. That's where Dev Diary came from as a podcast, Patched as a weekly podcast that still goes on. You can catch both of those shows on podcast feeds, both the good ones and the bad ones. That's where all that content lives. And it's where, so when Ben and I started working together, and I guess for anyone who's kind of been there from when I first showed up, my first working capacity with the Hoops was all around Behind the Play. And obviously for anyone who's checked out Behind the Play before, it's a one-on-one interview series with players and off-field personalities, etc. And I'd kind of developed this skill set for interviewing from having done Dev Diary, where we've got 135 episodes. There was one every fortnight going back to start like as early as 2018, 6 years ago when I first started it. In the last 6 months or last 12 months, my wife's health was pretty rubbish, and that kind of broke my 6-year-long streak. Happy for that to be the case, just to be able to stop and look after her and support her however I can. But yeah, about 9 months ago, basically the streak of episodes kind of came to a bit of an end. And now it's when opportunities pop up. Like I'm not chasing guests for Dev Diary at the moment. One of these days I'll get back to it. I had someone, an Aussie actually, who's working on the upcoming Ghost of Yote at Sucker Punch. He was lined up to come on board. Got an approval from PlayStation. They were keen to do it, and then it kind of fell through. So yeah, would that be on YouTube? So Dev Diary is on podcast feeds only. So it's an audio only thing, but of course everyone's got a podcast platform these days, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts or whatever. So that is, I'll type it into the chat, Dev Diary. And there's hundreds of episodes, many hundreds of hours, that you can kind of pour through there with some really huge guests along the way. Including, like I said, David Jaffe years and years ago. I am currently, and I haven't disclosed this publicly at all, I'm currently working on a project that I am in communication, and I'm in communications with PlayStation at the moment to try and get Neil Druckmann, who is the one of the directors on The Last of Us TV show, but more importantly, the brains behind The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2. I'm working on trying to get him on board for an interview for a book that I'm working on. And if that's the case, I might try and rope him in for a Dev Diary episode as well, because it might be the thing that kickstarts that show once again. I've had the likes of Abubakar Salim, who's been on like in Assassin's Creed games, but he's also in House of the Dragon as an actor. Lots of really cool people over the years. And one day I hope to get back to it. I love doing Dev Diary. The itch is constantly there, but I need time. I need time. We'll see how it all shapes up. But yeah, so I do game reviews. I do previews. I do video. The Player 2 website does have its own YouTube channel, and I dropped that link in the comments before. You can visit the website, and that will take you, like, from there, you'll see links to videos. You can go check out all the stuff on the YouTube channel as well. I have Patched is a video show, so you can go check that one out as well if you like. The Bombers are coming. What? Oh, bullshit. I don't believe that. Let me have a look. Share screen. Get out of here. Get out of here. Oh, it's frozen. Been a bit of back and forth on the goal scoring front lately. So, yeah, 5-10-40 to 6-7-43. They are there or thereabouts. You know, it's not outside of the realms. They could pinch a win here that they probably don't deserve. But Ben's going to continue to believe that the Bombers are a top 4 team. Storytelling in video games is top notch right now. I like those games which give you storytelling mode options. It is good. Yeah, especially if you're in it for the narrative, either because the game is too hard or you're just not interested in the way the game actually plays, but you want to experience the narrative. Well, not that you're not interested, but you're not looking to be pushed. You just want to get through it and enjoy it. Enjoy the plot that's been put together. I think that's a really good feature that exists in a lot of modern games these days. It's also quite family friendly in that respect as well. Kicked 3 out of the full. Holy okay. I've set myself a hard cutoff for 9:30, so we've got 14 minutes up our sleeves. If anyone has any questions they want to ask, if we don't, we'll wrap things up a little bit earlier. I'm happy to talk footy. I'm happy to talk about the Bombers and Port. I'm happy to, of course, talk about the Cats. I'm happy to keep talking about video games if that's what people want as well. Let me know what it is you want to discuss, and we will discuss it with the time that we have left tonight. But I will look to get out of here at 9:30, simply due to the fact that my Year 12s have to do a fairly lengthy assessment starting tomorrow. I've got some pre-sack work that I need to do for that to make sure it's ready. I've also got some games that I want to play, including a redacted one that comes to Xbox in the near future. No comment. Also, everyone, actually, I'll say it now. Obviously, I have my game of the week next week. I might have to squeeze a few of these things in. There is a Nintendo Direct going on tonight for games that are coming to the original Switch. If you've got kids, listen up. The Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be revealed in just a matter of days at this point. Next Wednesday at about midnight, we are going to get a very extensive look at what this new console is going to be. And oh yeah, okay. Oh, at the moment I'll get to that one. Yeah, there might be a few trailers we need to shout out. I might have to squeeze a few into Sunday night just to break that down, because I think there's a lot that I'm going to want to rant and rave about over the course of next week in the video game realm. Where do you rank our list? I'll admit I haven't sat down and compared us to the lists of other clubs. So I do think, and going back to our conversation before about having a lack of depth in the key forward stocks, that will hurt us, I think, in any sort of ranking, because, you know, Brisbane right now, for example, as much as they've lost Joe, they do have Sam Day. They do have Eric Hipwood, who's wildly overrated, and Logan Morris, who's young, up and coming and developing. I think we need one more. Ben says we need a Best in Chat award each week on this show. I'll see if I can find another sponsor. Go chasing him, Matt. I'd be super keen if you're able to chase another one down, mate. So that'd be good. The more we can do to kind of promote the awesome people within our community, the better. And we get some really great engagement in here. And will I focus on those who love video games? It's not going to hurt your chances. Yeah, sorry, at the moment, I guess I don't have a number. I don't have a number that I could just specifically drop on our ranking, but I think we've got a very strong list. The Cyril Cook Flowers of the Week. I know I promote Cyril Cook more than anyone else on the Hoops Crew because I put more content than anyone else out on the Hoops Crew, but cut me some slack. And no, you didn't throw me. No, it's just a question that I hadn't thought about in terms of specifically ranking us. Like, I think there's a really intriguing conversation there. And if you want me to sit and ponder on it a bit and start comparing some lists, then I'll be more than eager to do so at some point. I could even do it for some content at some point. That'd be, I think, a really good conversational piece. But it's not something I've thought about right now. So I feel like I'd be giving you just some, like, I'll say, oh, we've got the best list in the comp without really thinking about anyone else, because I'll get all one-eyed for a few minutes. This game, Danders has said it a few times. What was that punchline she dropped before? It was fantastic. Where are you, Danders? Public service announcement. Medical service has been advised to no one tune into the Essendon Port game due to the risk of being bored to death. I'm not even watching. I'm just watching this worm and how little it moves, and I'm over it. Would love to get pop culture on board, mate. I'm all too aware of pop culture in Geelong. And I won't say no if you get them on board. Like, if you need video game content to just be clear, I don't do anything outside of video games. I am not a tabletop dork. I'm not, sorry, everyone, I got judgmental there. I'm not a tabletop person. I don't play board games. I'm video games, and that's all I've got the mental bandwidth for when it comes to kind of gaming-based entertainment. So I may not 100% be up their alley, but I'm all for it. Like, I'll shout out anything you want. I'll sell my soul. I am interested. Oh, so there we go. Lions or the Giants. A giant 12-foot Thanos for the best comment. Shipped straight from Ben's house, because I won't be storing that shit here. No, I haven't. I'm not actually familiar with Footy and Friends. What's Footy and Friends? The only interview I've heard with Sully so far, and I know he's done the rounds because he's had to. Oops, sorry. The only Footy and Friends. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Now I'm caught up. I didn't realize, for some reason, it was called Footy and Friends. Sorry, I didn't realize that was Dill's show. So, yeah, I heard his interview with SEN. I think he spoke really well, but he did also use there was one bit of language that he trotted out. I almost felt like I needed to quote it for the rest of the day. There was one line he just trotted out constantly. It was a bit much, but yeah, I like their content, but for some reason I didn't know that it was called Footy and Friends. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we wind things down for the night? Shadu, you've jumped in at the end again. We love having you around. You're timing your run. It's good to have you here, though. Lots of love for Shadu in the comments there. Shadu's piling in towards the end of the show. You got an hour and a half to catch up on, including our game of the week. Kids sports, that'll ruin your day. That'll be it. My kids aren't quite old enough. My son plays Auskick. He does cricket. What do they call it these days? The Woolworths Cricket Blast. He does that. He plays tennis on a Thursday night, which I can never really attend because... Oh, did he do tennis tonight? He should have done tennis tonight. I didn't hear about it when I got home. Oh, here we go. Lucas is back about the essay. Okay. It's coming home. Anyone who said it's coming home, especially if they're English, but anyone who said it's coming home has ended up disappointed. So just, he's a sporty boy, my son. Tennis, cricket, footy. He's interested in playing basketball like I do of a Wednesday night. I've told him one day, if he continues to stick with cricket, not that I'm trying to incentivize him, but if he chooses to stick with cricket, that I might get myself a fresh set of pads and bat and helmet and gear and come out and join him one day when he's kind of at the point where he can play seniors. I'll probably embarrass myself. I'll go down to F grade and try and earn my way up to play at his level, but it'll be good fun. But yeah, he's shown a bit of interest all of a sudden in wanting to play basketball with me, which is cool. Shadu's off the game set tonight. That's awesome. There was one phrase. It wasn't even like he wasn't even stealing other people's wording. There was just one turn of phrase that he just used over and over and over again in the interview, and I was like, I was almost parroting it for the rest of the day myself. It's now escaped me what it was, but you can catch it. I believe the Geelong. I'm just quickly checking the Geelong podcast feed now. I'm pretty sure they posted it. Yeah, he did on Dwayne Russell's show transcript. Oh, hang on, I can check the transcript and see if I can find it while we're. Oh, he basically opened that. Just found it. He opened almost every comment with, "Look, to be honest." I'm like, all right, mate, change it up a little bit. We'll find someone to make a bunch of Paul James bobbleheads with him wearing. I haven't sworn all show, but Ben, go and get fucked. And watch Bussy come out of the woodwork. Oh my God, I'm clicking things. Too many things. Watch Bussy come out of the woodwork to say, "Oh, my kid's ears. I've just traumatized another child." Yeah, Lucas, be careful. You just don't want to be that guy. Just self-nominated. Just take it slow. Don't get too carried away. You say, obviously, either moment saying that I hate when players say, obviously, they begin with that. I mean, I say too much. I just did it a moment ago. But there's certain phrases that get used or overused that you don't even realize you're necessarily doing it. And in the case of Sully, it was to be honest. But sometimes, obviously, can be the thing. Sometimes people a whole lot. Media training fixes a lot of that up. I should maybe do some. Yeah, everyone has their own personal little ticks, and they do some things they do more than others, more or less, and get noticed because of it. It is what it is. We try and get better. It is a lot better than You're 100% right. I will give myself an out and say Connor O'Sullivan hasn't been talking to himself on a camera for an hour and 40 minutes. Not to himself. You know what I mean? But I feel like I'm allowed the occasional when I'm trying to make my own conversation as we go. All right. We are at the end of the night tonight. It is approaching 9:30. I do need to disappear and get some work done before I hit another day of school tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for having tuned in. As always, you are wonderful, wonderful people, and I love to hear your thoughts. Numbnut journos. Yeah, it's true. Thank you, everyone, for having tuned in tonight. Your comments in the live stream are always valued. We've had some great conversations, gotten a little bit deeper on a few occasions than perhaps I'd expected, but it's been awesome. I'm glad we're finishing with a really important one. Comment section, do your thing. Married at First Sight or Farmer Wants a Wife. I have never watched either, and I plan to not change that personally. But yeah, thank you everyone for having tuned in tonight. It's always a pleasure. If you haven't already done so, please check out all that we're doing on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, like this video if you haven't already. Please, if you're watching it live, smash that like button just so that this content and everything we do at the Hoops Crew is being pushed to as many people as possible. We want to engage as many Geelong fans as possible, build this wonderful community with so many of you awesome people, continue to grow it. Consider checking out our Discord if you want to continue to chat as a community with us as well on the side. That would be awesome. Tell your friends, tell your family. It'd be great to have more people joining the Hoops Crew community. We've spoken about comments. If you're watching this after the fact, don't hesitate to use the comment section and share your thoughts on the various different things that we've discussed on the show tonight. It'd be awesome to hear from you. Follow us on socials, but you can find me at Paul James Games on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Instagram. Check me out on any of those platforms. Feel free to reach out as well. Shout out, as always, to our sponsor, Cyril Cook Florist, for being just awesome. Consider checking out the Patreon as well. I referenced it earlier when it came to the Tanner Bruin video, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we've got on our Patreon as well, begging to be consumed by you. We've got a few dozen people that have all signed up to the Patreon for $5 to $6 a month. They're getting early access to content, exclusive content, and extended content there. The chaps tend to add a good 45 minutes onto their show that just doesn't get seen publicly. You have to sign up to the Patreon to get all that they are doing. And thank you to everyone. Many of you will be watching the show tonight. Thank you to all of those patrons who are supporting what we're doing and helping this dream to grow. We love your support. That is where we will wrap things up for the night. Thank you, everyone, for having tuned in. Lucas, good luck to South Australia. Hopefully, you won't have to eat some humble pie after your comments before, but just be careful. Just cool the jets for a little bit longer. We're close. You're close. Just wait a couple days. Maybe till the end of tomorrow. That might be all it takes at this rate. But we'll see. Thank you, everyone, for having tuned in. Remain Geelong strong. Go Cats. And I'll see you later.